Hello and happy Friday. Welcome to Boilermaker Lounge on the Lounge Sports Network, ASAP Network as well on the streaming portion of it. I'm Sam Springer, as always, joined by Grant Flora. Grant, it is the off season.
It is. It's definitely starting to feel like it now. The tournament game's been far enough back now that it feels like a legitimate off season. And even though
Right.
they still got the Final Four going on, it's like pretty much everybody now is in full off season mode.
Yeah, when you're not invested into the Final Four, it's still fun to watch, but is not as good for you to
Oh
watch.
yeah,
Last year at this time, we were in the throes of hopes of a national championship. Got very close, but this year a lot of setbacks, but yet a lot of things that we grew, or our team grew in a lot of different spots, especially trying to not distance themselves from Zach Edey's presence at Purdue, but to kind of form its own trail towards a national championship with Zach Edey as a pro. So a good season. Definitely one of those that there were ups and downs, many ups and some downs, and didn't end the way we wanted. But I sure think that we ended on a very high note, even though it was a loss.
yeah. I mean, you think back to the beginning of the season. Once Daniel Jacobson got injured, I was not sure what this season was going to even look like. Like, it could have been a year where Purdue is just middle of the road, maybe gets an 8 or 9 seed in the tournament,
Right.
and then just it's just a very low season compared to Purdue standards recently. And it turned out to be they got a 4 seed. They were contenders in the Big Ten and made a Sweet 16 and almost knocked off a top seed. So, uh, by all means, compared to what it could have been, when you lose a 7'4" center that you're expecting to be a big part of your team, to come back and still put together a really strong season was impressive.
And for anybody that's at the beginning of the tournament that said, "Well, why is Purdue a 4 seed?" They're definitely not a 4 seed. Uh, those same people were talking going into the Sweet 16. They're not deserving of a 4 seed. Look who they beat. They beat a 13 and a 12. Well, to this time, at this point, and that may change tomorrow with Houston playing Duke. Purdue's played the closest game to Houston in the whole tournament and had them on the ropes for a good and legitimately had them on the ropes.
Yeah, they've played about the best game of anybody that's played a 1 seed outside of the teams that
Yeah.
played Florida. Like UConn, Texas Tech both had really good shots to knock off Florida, but like Duke blew through the field. Auburn had some scary moments, but still came out on top, usually by a good 5 to 10 points at least against the teams they were playing. It was Purdue's game against Houston, and then UConn and Texas Tech against Florida. Those are the only games the 1 seeds really in doubt on whether or not they were going to make it out. So yeah, you have to give Purdue the credit, and the 12 seeds and 13 seeds are the teams that Purdue tends to struggle with. You almost feel more confident against one of these top-notch teams when you're Purdue than you do if you're playing at 12 or 13. So the fact that Purdue took care of business on a season where they came into the tournament somewhat stumbling to really take care of business that first weekend, I think showed a lot about where this Purdue program's at.
And I think how they did it. Definitely the the limiting, not against McNeese, but against Houston and against High Point, limiting of turnovers, something that they'd really struggled with the fact that they were able to win the way they did against McNeese and still turn the ball over 19 times, showed that they were hitting on their other facets of the game that really showed that they were built for a tournament run rather than necessarily the grind of an every night Big Ten schedule. So we talked a little on Monday. We had already gotten the news that Brian Waddell and Will Berg had hit the portal. Before that, then we got news on the same day that Myles Colvin was going. Oscar Cluff signed with Purdue, the big man from South Dakota State. We'll talk a little bit about him, but then the next day, Cam Heide hits the portal. We thought Berg was going to probably be gone. Granted, he graduated, so like he's graduating, so he's going to be technically a senior, but he's already went to 4 years of college, gotten his degree, and wants to move on. And we wish him and Brian Waddell the best, as we do Myles Colvin and Cam Heide. But we were talking, we thought maybe as long as Purdue kept one of those two, it would be a pretty solid portal season, I guess, because you're not losing too much. But now with Heide and Colvin both going, do you anticipate somebody that's maybe got a little bit more upside than those two coming in?
It's going to be interesting because I definitely was okay with where things were at when Colvin left. You hate to lose a guy that, has that kind of upside. He's super athletic, played in tournament games, has been a Purdue guy since he came in. But I thought if they lose a guy like Colvin, they bring in someone like what Lance Jones was. That's an upgrade. Ultimately, I think that's a plus for Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
Then you lose Heide, and now you're really looking a little more shallow at the wing, like the 3-4 spot. And I thought Heide was really good to have off the bench just as a spark plug, or just as a guy if you want to go back to small ball where you can put TKR at the 5, Cam Heide at the 4, depending on who you're playing. That can be a real favorable lineup. And Purdue in the past with Zach Edey and guys like that haven't really been able to do that. They have to play big. Just with the personnel they had, they didn't have the option to go small. They would have had that if they had Cam Heide. And plus the way he played in the tournament, it just seemed like, okay, this guy could really come on. And granted, we thought this last year too, but this guy could be a pretty good role for us. He could even play the 3 and start at the 3. And I didn't anticipate him leaving after Colvin left because now it seemed like he was going to get those minutes and whatnot. So yeah, definitely a little more disappointed to lose Heide, especially given that Colvin was gone. But it also frees up another roster spot where Purdue could go to the portal and pick up 2 guys that end up making a bigger impact. And Heide, the way he started this season and played the first half of this season was not what we were hoping for, given the way he finished the season his redshirt freshman year. If this year was his sophomore year, his freshman year, we thought he was going to come in and make a nice leap. He really didn't do that until the end of the season.
If you look at what the starting lineup was at the start of last year, so before Jacobson got hurt, that starting lineup's completely coming back. So you anticipate that more than likely, and with Cluff, I saw the question of, do you anticipate him being a starter? And I forget, I believe it was Boilers in the Stands that was talking about it the night that he committed to Purdue, asking if he would be a starter. And the response was, I would anticipate that Matt Painter brought him in with the chance of being a starter. With that being said, that means he and Jacobson will be fighting for that 5 spot. Pretty simple. You're gonna pencil in the All-American Trey Kaufman-Renn to the 4. You're going to you're gonna Sharpie him in. You're not gonna pencil him in. You're gonna pencil in Cox because you've got Cox, Harris, and the recruit Antoine West coming in that can play effectively at that 3 spot. Not saying that Cox won't earn it. I'm just saying that I think that's a pencil, so you can erase it with progression. And then you're going to Sharpie in, as long as, and this is all contingent on the portal closing and nobody else leaving. Now, I would be shocked if somebody else left of the 5 that we're talking about right now with the core. But stranger things have happened. But then you Sharpie in Lawyer and Smith at the guards. So you're not necessarily looking for. I mean, you could look for somebody that could be a starter, but I don't know that Coach Painter is going to be looking necessarily for somebody that's going to start with Heide and Colvin. From people I've talked to, with Colvin, he wants to be a slasher. And in the Purdue offense, there's no room for him to be a slasher. He's just not. That's not the way that he fits into the Purdue offense. Even though that would be what he would like to do, and so I totally see this as a move to. He still has aspirations to go to the NBA. He needs to show off his skills with minutes, and get better. He's still got 2 more years of college to do it. I think he's looking for a place that will allow him to develop into what he feels is going to be his biggest attribute going to the pros. With Heide, I was caught off guard, way off guard with him because of that response that he had right after they lost to Houston. You know, it's really hard to end a season this way, especially when you know you've got a family in the locker room. Something along that lines. That's not verbatim, but so it really caught me off guard that Heide decided he was going out too. But he did just sign with an agent 3 hours before it was announced he was leaving for the portal.
Yeah, and another thought that crossed my mind is if you bring in Oscar Cluff, now you have two centers essentially, which means TKR is going to play almost exclusively at the 4. And if Cam Heide doesn't get minutes at the 3, then his minutes come at the 4. And if TKR is playing 30 minutes a game at the 4, Heidi's getting 10 a game, and he's going to want more than that. Anyone that has his kind of upside and his kind of skill would want more than that. And so to then it makes a little more sense why you would leave. Also, the only other thing that maybe starts to shed doubt on whether all of the rest of Purdue's guys will stay is, I don't know if you saw this, but the day before Cam Heide transferred, he was apparently playing basketball, like just pickup in the rec with Braden Smith at Purdue's campus and just having a blast. And there was just talk that, like, because he's so close with these guys, he might have left because he thought or knew that other guys may have been thinking about or deciding to leave. And so it starts to say, oh, well, maybe it's more likely that someone like Braden Smith is looking elsewhere. I still don't think it's likely, but it's an interesting thought because other than that, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense why Cam Heide would leave. Purdue's going to be so good next year. He seems like a Purdue guy. He really was starting to come on well. He would be a nice guy off the bench to have. But yeah, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense for him, I think, why he would leave.
Through talking with a couple of people about Heide and the fact that it was kind of out of the blue. First off, let me address the he's close with them, and then maybe makes you think maybe Braden Smith might be going somewhere else. I think he holds grudges, Braden Smith does, and the fact that he was overlooked by so many, I think he wants to stick it to him. So I think he is to the point of ferocity. He is so loyal to Purdue right now because of that. You know, they were with him from day one. They gave him the opportunity to look at what he is now. He's an All-American. He's Big Ten Player of the Year, preseason and regular, after the season. So I don't know, unless he was closer to one of the other. I don't see TKR leaving. And let's talk about that real quick before I go back further. I honestly think that I would not be shocked to see Braden Smith and TKR both enter the draft because they have that couple of week window where they can go get evaluated and jump back if they're not where they should be. They're probably going to make more money in another year, in their senior year of college, than they would in the pros. So I think that probably is the avenue. We saw Zach Edey do the same thing. And so I think it wouldn't shock me. It also wouldn't shock me to see neither of them leave, and even declare for it because they know they're coming back. But stranger things have happened. And with talking to a couple of people about Heide, the conversation came up as, through no sort of knowing anything going on, it made them think that maybe there was something personal going on that made him think that he needed to go into the portal and get maybe closer to home or something, maybe with family or personally. We know nothing. I'm not speculating. That would make a little bit more sense, I guess.
Yeah, and I think I saw something like his family just moved from Minnesota to Alabama. So, who knows if that would be, if there is something going on, another reason why you might want to go. Either way, it's like it's disappointing to lose him, but it also opens up another roster spot.
Yep.
Purdue now can conceivably go and get 2 transfers, probably that are going to be wing players that are going to be hopefully a little more athletic, a little bit better defensively, and can handle the ball. Can really help with the pressure that you're going to see Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer deal with this season, like they have really since they've been at Purdue.
Yeah, it's definitely there's plenty in the portal, and just looking at some of the forwards, and you don't know exactly what they're looking for. Are you looking for a small forward that's going to fit in uh, with that wing, or a large? We're kind of at that shooting guard slash that small forward position is what Purdue is probably looking at, and there are a lot of people out there, excuse me, but not knowing exactly what they're looking for. Like I've heard Kennard Davis, his name coming from Southern Illinois. Uh, Lance Jones, anybody, is one that's been talked about. He is still uncommitted. He's out there. He's rated a 95 as a small forward, 6'6", 215. I'm not necessarily saying that he is one that they're looking at, but he kind of fits the bill of that small forward, or that slashing wing type of player.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like if you go back in time and just pluck Lance Jones and then put him on this team, that'd be exactly what they want. Because I think you want a 3-and-D guy who can, he can knock down shots because there's going to be lots of open 3-point opportunities. Somebody who can play defense, who has some athleticism, and who can take care of the basketball and handle it so that Braden Smith doesn't have to do everything himself in ball handling. And just a guy you can trust and a guy who has experience. Because CJ Cox can handle the basketball, but as a freshman and not as an elite ball handler, he was vulnerable at times if pressure came and Braden Smith had to get him the basketball. So again, if you could just bring another guy that fits the exact kind of mold that Lance Jones had, I think that would be a perfect fit for them at the 3. Because TKR is going to be at the 4, just like 2 years ago. You're going to have a near 7-footer, if not over 7-footer at the 5. And then Fletch and Braden still in the backcourt. So to me, that is what would fit well with their lineup. Who knows if that's the kind of guy they'll get, but that's what would fit well with their lineup.
Yeah, and it's I have zero idea where Matt Painter would be looking, because there are a plethora of good, like, star power players at that forward, that power, or that small forward, that shooting guard type wing position that are available. But when you get to those higher rated players that are, star potential powered ones, they're gonna want the guarantee of playing time. And we all know, with catchings from last year, Matt Painter does not guarantee playing time. The only reason we're saying you Sharpie in TKR, Fletcher Lawyer, Braden Smith is because we know their work ethic, and we know they're going to be the best players at their position, and they're going to give everything they can at their position to earn those spots. I mean, Cox, he's going to bust it. He knows, at the very least, he's saying the exact right things as a freshman who just finished his freshman season, getting ready for his sophomore seasons, as did Jakari Harris. Both of them had very good quotes as outgoing freshmen into incoming sophomores about what they need to do and what is expected of them coming into next season. So I really do think that they're not looking for star-studded players. They're looking for really solid role players, just like Lance was last year for the Boilermakers. And it's definitely something that I find myself checking the portal like 4 times a day, just seeing who's in, who's committed, and at the very least, it's given us something to talk about.
Yeah, and I'm looking to see, okay, as anybody else scheduled visits to Purdue, who could potentially be on that watch list. Ever since Oscar Cluff, we haven't really seen anything else
Right.
about guys coming in. But yeah, I mean, like AJ Storr just hit the portal. That's a guy that honestly you could almost throw in there at the 3 at Purdue, and it'd be really interesting because he's such a good playmaker. Like imagine if AJ Storr came to Purdue. I don't
But
think it's
would
going to
he be
happen.
humbled
But
enough
right,
after leaving Wisconsin to go to Kansas for such big money? Would he be humbled enough to come back and be a role player?
I don't know that he'd be the best fit with Purdue's culture and the
Yeah.
roster. I also don't think he'd necessarily get the bag he's looking for. I mean, because that's the other
Right.
thing with these big time guys that are already high major looking to transfer is they're going to want that money. And it's not that Purdue doesn't have money to offer, but or they're not going to go out and just spend a ton of money on one guy like some of these other programs will, which is probably going to keep some of these guys like AJ Storr from even considering going to Purdue.
They're not so thirsty for star-studded power to say, okay, we're going to back the Brinks truck up to this guy and get him to come. Uh, would they take him? I honestly, an interesting, and before we get to Cluff here in the last portion of the show, I did breach the conversation with one person and asked, you know, there's a forward from BYU in the portal, and he said, "Oh my goodness, I don't know that Matt Painter would do that and bring him back into the culture in which he left." I said, "There would be one way I think he could, is if Painter absolutely 100% knew that Catchings was humbled by the experience and was willing to accept the role that he was coming into and be willing to work to get better. Because these open roster positions now give Painter an opportunity, if he wants, to go get players in the portal that maybe have 2 or 3 years of eligibility left, and he can develop them. Now, I'm not saying Cannon Catchings is coming back to West Lafayette, but he fits what Purdue's looking for, and I had to bring it up, and the conversation was, I don't know that he would do that, but then I brought that part up about, no 100% knowing he was humbled, and they said, okay, yeah, I could see that if Painter's convinced, then who are we to judge on that?
Yeah, I mean, and because now he has the opportunity to take 2 players in the portal because you lost 2, it allows you to take a chance on a guy. So a guy
Yeah.
like Cannon Catchings, you can be, if he doesn't pan out, at least you didn't, basically bank your entire season on him filling that 3 spot, where you can get somebody else that fits that, and then Catchings could be the next guy. And with losing both Colvin and Heide, that sort of position is a lot more shallow. And so bringing Catchings would also help with that because that's what you planned on him doing when you brought him in as a freshman, or
Right.
hope to bring him in as a freshman. So, yeah, I honestly don't think it's going to happen. Just it doesn't seem likely, but I won't say it's impossible.
The
And
chances are slim to none, and Slim's heading towards the door, in my opinion.
yeah, no, I agree. But yeah, it's an interesting thought. Just I think it'd be a cool story too, just to come back and to kind of, again, like you said, be humbled, and then to end up making a difference on a team that is looking to go to a Final Four that's going to be in Indy, which means they're going to have a shot to win the national championship based off of what the roster looks like right now. Don't want to what's the word? Jinx anything
Jinx
by
it.
losing guys in the portal or anything. Definitely could happen. But if the roster stays intact, you're looking at a team that basically has stars at 4 out of 5 positions in their starting lineup and a chance to make it 5, depending on who they get in the portal.
Well, or one of your freshmen develops into that guy
True.
who's
Yeah.
just a stud, and I really do think that Jakari Harris has a lot of the makeup of potentially being just an absolute star if he's given the opportunity. I really do.
Yeah, and CJ Cox's offensive playmaking at the
Absolutely.
same rate.
And I think they honestly see, if we put in this work, both him and Harris, Cox and Harris, we put in the hard work, we utilize the minutes we get, and make the best of that. After next year, as defending national champions, they're going to have an opportunity to be starting guards, along with West. Those 3 will be like that triumvirate 1 through 3s that could really be a different style in which Purdue's used to playing, but they'll still have Daniel Jacobson there with a big guy. And, we haven't even mentioned Jack Benter is going to be back from Redshirt. He's a good 2-3 guy is where he's at. You also have Raleigh Burgess, unless something happens to where he decides he's not coming back. But I don't have any anticipation to say he will be. But they've got a roster, and Luke Ertl is coming in 26. So, excuse me. So it's definitely something. Purdue's got some really good stuff in the cupboard, even after next year when 3 of the 5 starters go bye-bye.
Yeah, and I think that freshman going to be sophomore class, but they're just so gifted defensively.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about Daniel Jacobson in the post with all his shot blocking ability and his mobility that allows him to move and cover some of these guys that maybe are a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
And then CJ Cox and Jakari Harris are just such great on-ball defenders. They stay with their guy. They're disciplined. Like, give them some more experience and some time. And I think they're going to be phenomenal defenders. You fill in 2 more guys, and that is a rock-solid defensive team. It'll be fun to watch if they can get the offense down, which I think they will, right? They don't necessarily have the skill that Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer have right now, but again, give them a couple years. We've seen flashes from CJ Cox. Jakari's shot better. Like, they're gonna be able to be a really interesting group after another great class and Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer depart.
You talk about the sophomore coming in sophomore class next year, good defensively. You think about what Purdue's always been really known for is being able to play good defense. Not always the greatest, but really solid defense. This year was a huge anomaly, and it had to do with the fact that Daniel Jacobson got hurt and left this big gaping open. If there's one negative to having a big man, is maybe you get a little bit complacent with your defense when you're not the big man, because you've always got that safety net. And when Jacobson went down, they stuck in that rut a really long time with not playing great rim defense or defense sticking with you, allowing a lot of backdoor cuts. So I think this year was an anomaly, not a habit, not what Purdue's going to be. I think it's going to be remedied rather quickly once you get Cluff and Jacobson into the lineup. And let's take the last few minutes of today's episode, talk about the newest Boilermaker. He officially committed and signed his letter of intent or enrolled or whatever you want to call it with Purdue just Thursday, I believe. But 6'11" Oscar Cluff from South Dakota State averaged a double-double for the Jackrabbits last year after, a first season at the Division I level at Washington State. Great. He is another one of a Purdue basketball tradition, I guess, of big men that didn't start in playing basketball until later in their lives. Zach Edey Zach Edey's in his 7th organized year of basketball with Memphis this year. This is, I believe, Cluff's 5th season, maybe 6th season of organized basketball coming up with Purdue. And he is leaps and bounds better than what he was when he started.
Doesn't he just seem like the quintessential Purdue big man? I mean,
well, he's from Australia too, so he's foreign born.
And I don't even know if this is true, but I thought I heard someone say like he had a full-time job doing some sort of steel work before he even was in college playing basketball or something like that. Like, just, it's like this guy was born to play at Purdue, and here you go. It's going to be really interesting to see him play. The fans are going to love him. And he's got the experience. I think most likely he starts at the beginning of the season over Daniel Jacobson, just because Jacobson hasn't played hardly any games. And just with the experience factor, I think Cluff probably starts. Jacobson maybe takes that spot later on if he is playing well enough and developing well enough. But I think Cluff is going to be a really, really solid guy to have. Going to fix the rebounding issue pretty much right when he gets there. Going to be able to score the basketball. And again, with him and TKR, going to create some big matchup issues. Also led South Dakota State in assists, about 2.8. To me, that's important because we're going to see either some doubles or just some areas where teams get caught in rotations trying to guard these guys. If you can fire it out to those shooters and they can knock it down, it's going to be a big, big help to that Purdue offense. We've seen it with TKR and Zach Edey, so to see him have that ability to pass the basketball is also something to take note of.
Well, and our buddy Dustin Schutte wrote an article shortly after Cluff committed to Purdue, saying 5 things you need to know or about big man Oscar Cluff. First off, he led the nation in rebounds at 12.3 rebounds a game. And let's call it what it is. He's at South Dakota State, so he's not always playing top-notch level opponents. But I will tell you, against Alabama, he went for 21, and I believe he had 8 or 9, maybe even a double-double, 10 rebounds against Alabama. And Alabama is formidable. So for somebody to do that against Alabama makes you know that he's got the capability of holding his own against the top-notch opponents. He shoots 60% from the floor, 60 plus. Actually, he was a 60. I'm sorry. He is 59.7 of his shots for his career. Last season, he exceeded 60% with a 63.4% rate. He also shoots free throws at almost 78%. So, 2 shooters, if you pull in TKR, rather big size that can hit 6 out of 10 shots, even if they're contested, that makes for a really tough time to try to defend those guys. And I think it's in the post, it's going to be TKR is going to get his shots first, and then it'll go to Cluff or Jacobson as maybe cleanup, or at least as a secondary option down there. You know, TKR kicks it back out and they kick it around and back down into the post on the other side, whatever it is. But I think Cluff brings a lot of validity to what Purdue is hoping to do. He posts up; it's his strength, and he, like you mentioned, he passes the ball very well. He's not a Trevion Williams. He's going to be more like a Zach Edey, to where it's not going to be just kicking it out to a guy for open shot. He's going to hit a cutter. You know, if somebody's cutting to the basket, he's going to hit the cutter, and but he holds the ball high. So as long as he holds the ball high, it makes it very, very hard. You know, big man brings it down here, it's trouble. But if he keeps it high, he can either go straight to the hoop or kick it out. And I think he's going to be a very effective post player in more than just being a rebounder and a scorer in the post.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, he's big, but his game is not like just bulldozing through the defenders.
Right.
You know, Zach Edey, he had game, he had the footwork, he could do some post moves, but a lot of it was just overpowering the defender, getting to his jump hook, and it was unguardable. Cluff does a really good job just sealing and getting those gaps, finding those little spaces where he can get to the rim and score, and it's not just him going over the top of the defender. And rightfully so, because he's only 6'11". I say only because you're talking about a guy like Zach Edey.
We're used to 7+.
Yeah, like it's not quite as unguardable as some of the other Purdue bigs that we've seen. But his offensive ability to just know how to play and to be smart, and some of those decisions he makes kind of separates him, and it's going to make it really good to be able to play off of TKR. And again, we're so used to Purdue centers being the first option in the post that now feeding it to TKR instead. Like, these guys are going to get a lot of weak side rebounds. They're going to get a lot of finishes at the rim, because now you don't have Caleb First, who was a great guy to have in your team, great player, but was not great at finishing around the rim. Oscar Cluff is not going to have that issue. And so whether you try and help onto TKR with your guards coming down, or the other big trying to come over and provide some help, or no matter where you provide help off of to guard TKR. He's either hitting a shooter or he's finding Oscar Cluff. And it's going to basically create a lot of one-on-one matchups with TKR. He's going to score, and same thing for Cluff. It's going to be a tough Purdue offense to stop.
And you can only anticipate these ads being majorly beneficial to the assist game of Braden Smith, because I'm not gonna argue he benefited from having Zach Edey. I'm not saying that he didn't, but he's a darn good passer. He's a darn good point guard. He's going to make anybody better. But when you've got those type of options, and I think I saw Cluff shoots 74% or something like that right around the rim. So, because he does pull himself out occasionally and takes some mid-range jumpers. He's got that capability. He can occasionally shoot a three-pointer. Not that we were going to anticipate him all of a sudden being, Mason Gillis hitting 9 in a game, but he, if you need to, you can stretch him out and maybe shoot a couple, but him being around the rim is in doing that, and TKR doing what TKR does. It's going to make. I highly anticipate Braden Smith being the all-time Big Ten assist leader by the end of next season.
Yeah, and what's crazy is he had more assists this season than last season.
Mm-hmm.
So you lost Zach Edey, and his assist numbers still went up. A lot of that was because TKR was getting his passes, and they had that nice little pocket pass game. But it shows Braden Smith's game was not tied to Zach Edey, but it's going to definitely benefit from better basketball players in the court. Hopefully that comes with some other transfer portal guys that can knock down some shots and play some defense, but we'll have to wait and see what Coach Painter comes up with here as the offseason keeps going.
Well, that wraps up today's episode of Boilermaker Lounge. We'll keep a close eye on the portal and see what happens over the weekend, and maybe we'll have some more transfer portal news when it comes to, and if any of those guys that left commit somewhere, we'll be sure to talk about those as well, because you know what, I mean, I don't ever damn anybody trying to make a name for themselves, and if it means that they've got to leave where they've been, where we've loved them, to go elsewhere. I mean, Mason Gillis left. I loved Mason Gillis, but he left. He could have stuck around for one more year, but he went almost to the exact same situation at Duke and is playing the same situation. Now he's getting ready to play for a national championship. So those guys, for what they gave Purdue while they were here, I am forever grateful for them, because you know what? Every one of those guys was on a Final Four team last year with Purdue, and that means they played some part, of getting Purdue to that point. So they'll always have a warm. Now, if we play them, we monkey stomp them, put them in a hole, but. Absolutely, you wish them the best going forward.
Yep, I agree. It's going to be tough rewatching that national championship game highlight from Cam Heide and realizing it doesn't play for Purdue anymore.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely wish those guys the best, and we'll be interested to see where they end up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. Well, thanks so much for joining us this Friday for Boilermaker Lounge. We'll be back on Monday with some more news and things to talk about. And we are in the off season, so we've moved to twice a week, which is Monday, Friday each week. And Grant and I are putting together some ideas to have some off season fun with some former players, and then also with some breakdowns of past seasons, maybe, or players throughout the time at Purdue. So thanks so much for joining us. For Grant Flora, I'm Sam Sprunger. We'll see you on Monday.